Standing in the doorway, I realized my parents had no faith in my dreams and chose my brother's failed ventures over my future. With just $200 in my pocket, I walked away and never looked back. If you've ever felt betrayed, like and share this story. Your future is yours to create. My name is Donna Anderson, and at the time of this story, I was 18 years old, standing at a crossroads in my life. I come from a family that is known for its success, my parents having built a life of comfort and achievement. Growing up, I often felt like I was living in the shadow of my older brother, Brian. Brian, with his entrepreneurial spirit and charm, was the one who always seemed to have my parents' full attention. Despite my own efforts to excel, maintaining a perfect grade point average, winning national awards in science, and being involved in every school activity, Brian was always the golden child in the eyes of our family. He dropped out of college to pursue his dreams, while I worked hard to secure my place at one of the top universities in the country. My parents never failed to remind me of how important education was, but as time went on, I started to wonder if their words held any real meaning. It was clear that, despite my hard work and success, I would never quite measure up to Brian. My achievements seemed to pale in comparison to his endless ventures, and yet he seemed to get the most support, even when his ideas failed. This sense of being overlooked was something that shaped the course of my decisions, leading me to question everything I had believed about family and success. The day I received my acceptance letter to Harvard University, I felt like the culmination of years of hard work had finally paid off. It was a moment I had dreamed about for as long as I could remember. Harvard, a place that symbolized excellence, the future I had worked tirelessly to build. I rushed to share the news with my parents, eager to see the pride in their faces. "Mom, Dad, I got in!" I called out, my voice echoing through our large, comfortable home. But instead of the celebratory reaction I had expected, they both just stared at me in silence. My mother's face didn't light up with excitement. Instead, she simply nodded. My father, usually quick with words of praise, was unusually quiet as well. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. It was as if they hadn't even heard what I'd just said. When I asked them about their reaction, my mother finally spoke. "That's wonderful, Donna," she said, her voice cool, lacking the warmth I had hoped for. "But we need to talk." I felt a sense of unease growing inside me. As I sat down at the dining table, I had no idea what was coming next. They told me about Brian's latest venture, a tech startup that was supposedly going to change the world, and how they had decided to invest all of my college fund, $250,000, into it. The words hung in the air, and the excitement I had once felt about my future began to fade into disbelief and anger. The silence that followed my parents' announcement felt suffocating. I couldn't process what they were saying. I stared at them, trying to find any hint of a joke or misunderstanding. "Wait, what?" I finally managed to say, my voice trembling with disbelief. "You're using my college fund? For Brian's project?" My father shifted in his seat, avoiding my gaze. "It's a great opportunity, Donna. Brian's startup is a breakthrough in renewable energy storage. It could secure our future. We're investing in it because it's the right thing to do." His words felt hollow, and I could feel my heart sinking. This was my future, my hard-earned chance to attend one of the most prestigious universities in the world, and they were throwing it all away for Brian, who had failed countless times before. "But what about me? What about my dreams?" I asked, barely able to keep my voice steady. My mother's response was sharp and cold. "You can take out loans like everyone else. Maybe consider a local community college if you really want to go." The sting of those words hit harder than I expected. It wasn't just the money, it was the years of expectations, the countless sacrifices I had made to prove myself. And now, in a single moment, they were telling me that my future didn't matter as much as Brian's latest venture. My dreams, my hard work, were nothing compared to his ambition. The realization was a crushing blow. My entire life I had sought their approval, only to find that in the end, I was expendable. I felt my world shift in that moment, a bitter mix of anger and betrayal flooding my chest. My future, my dreams, had just been taken away without any consideration. I couldn't breathe. I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping harshly against the floor, and walked toward the door. "I can't do this," I muttered, barely able to keep the tears from spilling. My father called after me, but his voice was distant, like it belonged to someone else. "Donna, we need to talk about this rationally." His words, meant to calm me, only made the hurt deepen. As I stood in the hallway, I realized that there was no coming back from this. There was no way to undo the damage they had done. Without saying another word, I turned and walked up the stairs to my room, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew what I had to do. I began packing, clothes, my laptop, and the emergency credit card I had never used, anything that might help me survive. I felt strangely calm, like this was the only logical choice left. As I packed, I grabbed the $200 I had saved from tutoring jobs. It wasn't much, but it was all I had. My mind raced, memories of Brian's failed ventures flashing before my eyes. How many times had they chosen him over me? This wasn't just about money. It was about years of feeling invisible. I wasn't going to let them dictate my future any longer. I hit send on my emails, one to Princeton, another to my parents, then turned off my phone. There was no turning back. I left the house that night, my heart heavy, but my resolve stronger than ever. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't stay there any longer. I found myself in a small, 24-hour diner on the outskirts of Boston. The bright neon lights outside a sharp contrast to the darkness inside me. I sat at a corner booth, my backpack securely under the table, and tried to wrap my mind around what had just happened. The $200 in my pocket felt like a cruel joke, but it was all I had. As I sipped my coffee, the waitress, Maria, gave me a friendly smile. She asked if I was okay, noticing the exhaustion in my eyes. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "Yeah, just figuring things out." She didn't pry, but asked if I was looking for work. The offer was simple: kitchen help for minimum wage, plus tips. I took the job without thinking twice. At that moment, it wasn't just a way to earn money. It felt like a lifeline. Maria, in her own quiet way, became a mentor. She had owned the diner for years, and over the next few weeks, she taught me more than I ever expected, about business, people, and resilience. Her insights, the way she managed her staff and customers, gave me a new perspective. As I worked the late-night shifts, I realized that the skills I was gaining here were just as valuable as anything I could have learned at an Ivy League school. I was building something real, something for myself. As the weeks passed, I settled into a routine. During the day, I worked at the diner, learning the ins and outs of the business while picking up valuable lessons from Maria. But at night, I focused on building something of my own. I had always been good at tutoring, helping students with advanced math and science, and now it was time to turn that skill into a business. I started small, offering private tutoring sessions to a few local students. Word spread quickly, and soon, parents from the wealthier neighborhoods of Boston were asking for my help. They were impressed with my knowledge and the fact that I had been accepted to Princeton, even though I had turned it down. It didn't take long for me to realize that there was a demand for my services. Students who needed more than just a tutor. They needed guidance, someone to help them navigate the competitive world of college admissions. I created a website, designed business cards, and even wrote a few sample essays to showcase my work. My clients didn't care about my last name or where I had been accepted. They cared about results, and I was determined to deliver. By the end of the 3rd month, I had enough clients to quit the diner. But I didn't leave Maria behind. Every weekend I still helped her with inventory and scheduling, and she continued to share her business wisdom with me. She was the first person who truly believed in me, and I would never forget that. The more I learned, the more I realized that this was just the beginning. As my tutoring business grew, I realized that I needed to think bigger. The more clients I took on, the more I saw the potential to scale. It wasn't just about helping a handful of students anymore. It was about reaching as many as I could. I started by hiring a few talented tutors who had also taken gap years, just like me. They were bright, ambitious, and ready to share their expertise, but they needed the right platform. I offered them 70% of the fees they earned while I handled the marketing, client acquisition, and the business side of things. Together, we created a network of highly skilled tutors, each specializing in different subjects. Within 2 months, elite academic consulting had expanded from me, working alone in my small apartment, to a full-fledged team. As the word spread, we began to attract clients from all over the country. We had offices in major cities like New York and Los Angeles, each one buzzing with energy and the promise of success. Our reputation for delivering exceptional results quickly grew, and soon we were the go-to service for parents desperate to give their children an edge in the competitive world of college admissions. The financial success came faster than I had ever expected. Within 6 months, I had made my first $1 million, and I didn't stop there. I reinvested everything I made into expanding the business, opening more offices, and marketing aggressively. I also began making strategic investments in tech stocks, further growing my wealth. What had started as a small tutoring business had transformed into a powerful educational empire, and I wasn't done yet. After 10 years of building my business empire, I knew it was time to return to my family. My parents' company, Anderson Technologies, was on the brink of collapse. Their faith in Brian's endless projects had drained every resource, and now they were desperate for a solution. I had followed their decline from a distance, watching as their once thriving business faltered. It wasn't hard to find out that they were struggling. The signs were everywhere. But I didn't return to gloat or to exact revenge. I had something much bigger in mind. I scheduled a meeting with my parents, and when I walked into the boardroom of Anderson Technologies, I knew I was walking into a place that had once been full of pride and promise, but was now filled with tension and uncertainty. My father was the first to speak, his voice wavering slightly as he greeted me. "Donna, we've heard so much about your success," he said, his words heavy with a mix of admiration and regret. "We're in trouble. We need your help." My heart didn't swell with satisfaction, though it should have. Instead, I felt a sense of calm. This was my moment to show them that the daughter they had dismissed all those years ago had not only survived, but thrived. I wasn't here to ask for forgiveness. I was here to offer a solution. I proposed that I help save their company, but only on my terms. I would take over the leadership of Anderson Technologies and turn things around. But there was one catch. They had to recognize my success, finally, for what it was. I took a deep breath and, without hesitation, made my offer clear. I would take control of Anderson Technologies, restructure the company, and inject the capital needed to save it, but only if they agreed to one thing. Brian would have no place in the future of the company. I knew it would be a hard pill for them to swallow, but it was necessary. Brian's failed ventures had drained their resources for far too long, and it was time for fresh leadership. I could see my father's pride clash with the reality of the situation. His face hardened as he processed my words, but I didn't flinch. This was no longer about family loyalty. This was about saving a legacy. "You're saying you want us to completely cut Brian out?" My father's voice was tight, his grip on the armrest of his chair firm. "He's been our investment, our hope." I nodded, my gaze steady. "He's had his chances, Dad. It's time for change. The company needs someone who understands not just technology, but business management. Someone who can adapt and innovate. I've built something from the ground up, and I'm offering you the same opportunity." The room fell silent. My mother's face flushed with the sting of old wounds, and Brian sat there, slack-jawed, realizing the full extent of my words. But this was my moment, and I wasn't backing down. "If you want the company to survive, I'm your answer," I said, my voice unwavering. Slowly, my father nodded, conceding. The battle for Anderson Technologies had begun, and I was determined to win. My journey is a reminder that sometimes the hardest challenges are the ones that shape us the most. Looking back, I realized that when life felt like it was being ripped away, it was exactly the push I needed to find my true strength. My story isn't just about overcoming betrayal or defying expectations. It's about realizing that success doesn't come from the approval of others, but from believing in myself when no one else did. I faced moments when I was told I wasn't enough, when the odds seemed impossible, but it was in those moments that I chose to rise above. The greatest success isn't necessarily achieving someone else's dream for you, but building your own, brick by brick, with determination and belief in your worth. So, if my story resonates with you, take it as a reminder to trust in your journey, even when others doubt it. Life has a way of showing us who we are when we least expect it. If my resilience inspired you, share this story with someone who might need a reminder that their dreams are worth fighting for. And follow for more stories of courage, transformation, and success that come from the most unexpected places.